Okay, so today I'm going to do a little lesson on color and just how to set up a color wheel and how to blend color because we might not be able to get to it today in class, so I'm going to record it here too. So I've got a couple of things, ways that you can incorporate color. This is a Crayola set of colored pencils actually, and I've tried to put them in order of the colors according to the color wheel. We're not going to necessarily use every single one of these colors, but if you have a set that has a lot of colors like I have here, I'm going to show you which ones we're going to pull out and use for the color wheel. You're going to be creating two color wheels. One of them will only, you're going to be only using the primary colors to blend all the other colors, and the other one you're going to pick at least at least 6 and no more than 12 colors to do a color wheel the second time around, just to get used to how your colored pencils or watercolor works. If you have a watercolor set like this one, this is perfectly fine to use. It has the primary and secondary colors in it, which allows you to create the color wheel first of all using just blue, yellow, and red. And then you're going to, or that should be red right there, and then you're going to use the color wheel or do a second color wheel that includes all the colors in the set. So the color wheel homework assignment is to get you comfortable with your medium that you're using, and also how to blend. So if you have a big set like this, the first thing that you're going to want to do is pull out your primary colors in the set. So this is a lot easier to do that with the watercolors, and I will be demonstrating both, so I'll just set those aside for now, and we'll start off with the colored pencils. So I have to find from here what I think is the best representation of red, and I think I'm going to pick this one. What I'm looking for is a true red, something that doesn't have too much orange or too much blue in it. And this might look really orange on the video screen, but it's pretty red. This is the second red that these are the two that I would consider, one or the other. And I'm looking at what it says on the side. It says, I need my glasses to be able to see it, but this one is saying red-orange actually, and this one is saying just red. So maybe I was wrong. This is more of like a fire engine red, and this one is, according to this set, is calling this red, or the root of the color red. Now, a lot of times too, whatever the color pencil is painted as may be a lot different than what it looks like when it's on paper when we use it. So I'm going to set this one aside as the color I'm going to use for red. So that's going to be my red that I'm going to use right there. Okay. Now I need to find the best representation I have in my set for yellow. And this time I'm going to pay attention to what it says on the side. This one says golden yellow. This one just says yellow, so we'll try that one. That's yellow. And then I'm looking for blue. And I think this one's probably going to be blue right here. Yep, so that one just says blue on it. So there are the three primary colors that I'm going to use to start to create my first color wheel. The other colors that are in this set are a variety of secondary and tertiary colors, and we'll look at that when we look at the color wheel. And then over to the side here I have my grays. So this is white through black here, grays. This one's kind of a green gray, but I felt like it belonged in this cool gray. Yeah, it's called cool gray. This is called just, what does that say? It's hard to read these. Slate gray. And that one I suspect is just gray. Yep. And then we have black. And then here we have all of our neutral colors. Neutral colors are colors that we see usually as blended colors from here. So we get a lot of our neutrals from blending complementary colors together. You end up with, like, for instance, if you were to mix green and red, you get kind of a brownish. So these are all those different, these are all those different neutrals that you get. And some of them are going to look a little bit more, you know, green, or a little bit more brown, or a little bit more red, depending on where you are on the spectrum. But these have a little bit of other colors in them, which makes them neutral. They neutralize with other colors, because whatever you put them with, it brings out those particular colors if they're in it. For instance, this brown here is going to go really well with a lot of these oranges and reds, because there's a lot of orange and red in that brown. Okay, so that's how to look at the set. And I'm just going to pick these up after I've all organized them and everything and put them in my bin so they don't go sliding all over the place. And we'll start off by creating a very simple color wheel. So the way that I create a color wheel is by using a triangle. And at the corners of each of the triangles, make a circle that you want to be at least about like a quarter, size of a quarter, somewhere around there. And we're going to put a little note to ourselves of what we're going to put in there. That's going to be red, yellow, and blue. So there's our red, yellow, and blue primary colors. Okay. Then create another triangle in the opposite direction. And between blue and yellow, you get green. Between yellow and red, you get orange. And between blue and red, you get violet. So those are the secondary colors. Orange, green, and violet are the secondary colors. So this first color wheel is all going to be about how we blend the original primary colors into all the rest, because supposedly that's why they're called the primary colors, is we can take these colors in their purest forms and blend them and get these other variations. The other ways that we get colors and color pigments in medium like this, where it's a solid medium that we're mixing, it's a lot different than in you zoom in a little bit more, make this a little bit brighter. There. Is if we're using light to create color instead, then our primary colors are red, green, and blue. So the red, green, and blue lights all put together create a white light. The absence of light is black. Whereas we're mixing medium here, so this is a solid medium. Our primary colors are red, yellow, and blue, and we mix them together to get the other colors, okay? So I'm just going to start off by putting a layer of each color, and I'm going to do a couple of layers. And when I say layers, you'll notice that I actually looks like I'm doing 3 layers. I kind of like cross-hatching when we learn to shade. I'm going to build up those layers by starting off with a light layer to begin with. And this is the light layer that you start with, I would call a wash. When you're introducing color to any new drawing, it's good to start with like a really light layer first. You can always add more. If you start off by putting in a ton of color like this, you're laying down a ton of pigment, you can't take it away. So that's one of the things that I have kind of learned over the years, is I can build that pigment up if I'd like to after the fact. And I have to look to see if these are watercolor pencils. I don't think they are. So then we'll do red, and I'm going to try to create the same level of color and pigment. So I'm going to do 3 layers of red. And what you're trying to do is get the same level of intensity on those red and blue, and then yellow. And I pretty much just use the circles as a rough estimate of how large I want my sample to be. I don't worry about making sure I'm completely in the lines there. This is just to, test out this medium. So now that I've got those red, yellow, and blue pigments in there, we're going to make orange. And so to make orange, I'm going to start off with 1 layer of red. And then I'm going to do on top of that a layer of yellow. I'll do 2 layers of yellow. And then another layer of red. And then another layer of yellow. So see how I had to use a little bit more yellow than red to get the orangey look to that? That's because red is a much higher saturation in this example. This set has, the red has got a lot more pigment in it. And so in order to create the balance, we're not going to have a perfectly even amount of both. Alright, so I ended up with 3 layers of red. and I ended up with about 5 to 6 layers of yellow. And then I'm happy with that orange because that orange right there looks like it's about the same amount of intensity or saturation as the other two colors. So I ended up having to put down a lot more pigment and layers, but the layers, when you go in the cross direction, all those layers are independent layers of red and yellow are blending together. They're not actually mixing on the paper because this is a solid medium, but they're blending together, and our eyes are reading both of those colors and mixing them up and turning them into what looks like orange to us in this picture. So violet, we would go through the same process, just put on a layer of blue, put in a layer of red, and keep building that color until you are satisfied with that violet kind of pigment. So, and again, pay attention to kind of which color dominates. It's not always going to be a perfectly even layering. You're looking for a balance that all of a sudden, oh, that looks more violet than it does anything else. It doesn't look blue. It doesn't look bluish and bluish red. It doesn't look, and until you are happy with that result, keep going and keep creating additional layers. And I think right there I've kind of hit the sweet spot that sort of looks like purple to me, or violet. I like that it has the same kind of saturation again as the rest. So the last one we're going to do is green, and we want to mix our blue and yellow for green. And again, yellow you might need several more layers of because it's going to be the weaker of the two colors. Green is a little bit more saturated than the yellow. It's a darker color, so it might come through a little bit more strongly than the yellow. The yellow's a lot more subtle. Whoops. So I might need more layers of it. And I feel like, well, we're getting there. This one's one of the harder ones. I don't know why. Getting the blue and the yellow to make green. You might have to do several layers. And I forgot to record how many layers I was doing on the other ones, but it does help to kind of understand your set of pencils too. But now there's your color wheel. There's your first color wheel. So I'm going to pause there and go to the next video to show you how to mix the same things but with watercolors. And then we will do another color wheel, and I'll do both side by side for how to use all the colors and how different the colors will end up looking when you're using just the primary colors to mix your colors, or when you're using the color that's in the set to define that color.